welcome to a very special episode here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. I've got Mr. Nick Wishart from the Cheersquad. Nick, hello to you.
G'day, Terry. How are you, mate? All right?
Mate, I'm great. This is coming at a really good time because we have, I know that for the most part, a lot of people get too caught up in the men. But we actually have a draft coming up on Tuesday for the women. I think it's the perfect time to ask you and find out a little bit more about where are the women at as a club, high level, because let's be honest, they're definitely more close to a flag than what the men are.
They're a lot closer. I think if you say where are the women at, to be completely blunt and not even wearing a biased Carlton hat, I think we were jibbed this year of a Carlton premiership. Number 17/number 1 was on its way to Icon Park this year. And if it weren't for the season being cancelled early, I think it would have happened. I thought there was an even spread amongst the AFLW list of contributors every single week. They were playing magnificent football and they injury-free. Every other team had something wrong, even if it was one player or one or two players going down. We kept a really healthy list together, which, whether it's AFLW or AFL men's, it's really hard to do at any time. And some of the bigger name players were just starting to hit their stride at the right time of the year. I thought they were really well coached all season. Had the season not been pulled, so we made it to a prelim final. Had it not have been pulled 2 weeks early, I reckon it would have been safe to say, at least if it wasn't us, Freo were a bit of a threat, but because they didn't lose a game, so they've got every right to feel jibbed as well. But I don't think Carlton did a heck of a lot wrong with their AFLW program in 2020. So Carlton fans, we've got a bit of unfinished business heading into 2021.
100%. You know, the one thing that strikes me with the women's team when I watched them last year was there was just I don't know if it's confidence that they knew how good they were, but there seemed to be that, you know, when you watch we're talking about Collingwood last night, when you watch the good premiership contenders have that confidence that no matter what, they believe they're good enough. I just sense that from them.
I completely agree. And there's a sense of expectation around there now. They went to a grand final 2018, and to be completely blunt, we weren't up to it that year. Adelaide, on the day of the grand final, were just streets better than us. It was like to put it in the sort of terms that people would use for the men's comp, it was like the boys playing the men. Well, this was like girls playing women in a lot of effect. Adelaide just seemed 2 or 3 inches taller and about 5 yards faster every single contest all day. There were a few needs on the list, and Carlton were able to not only address them, but lose arguably one of their best players in Bree Davey, one of the best players in the comp. Not only did we not miss her, but I thought that our midfield looked better without her there. And there's a few reasons why they did. I thought it was a more even spread rather than being reliant on one person or one or two people doing the bulk of the load. But the style of play was just magnificent. Setting up from halfback and from our defenders, majority of Carlton's play starts off the half-back line rather than having to rely on winning X amount of clearances, which they're doing that as well. But I thought the tactics really well coached this year for the crop we've got, and I think that the list was, every of the people we got over the last off-season, not only were 2 or 3 of them featuring every week, but they were the main contributors every week. I think we recruited really, really well. And hopefully with our draft analysis heading into Tuesday night's draft, hopefully we can say the same about this year. And come the premiership celebrations in 2021, we can be saying, well, we picked up this person, this person, this person. And that was ultimately what got us premiership number 1/premiership number 17 at Carlton.
17 at the club, absolutely. It's funny, I asked people through the Carlton People series, when are we lifting up premiership number 17? And most people say something along the lines of 23, 24, but mate, it's 21. That's when the next cup.
It genuinely could have been this year, and there's not even a Carlton bias, Terry. I really think that they were. Fremantle didn't lose a game all year, so I can understand anyone who wants to say that Fremantle have a right to be upset that the season finished early as well. Yep, good luck to them. But they didn't play Carlton during the season. And, of course, we didn't play them. But I thought that, we're every bit as good as them. And I thought we were just hitting our stride at the right time of year. So we could have had it this year.
Okay. So we're going into 2021. Things are going to happen pretty quickly because Tuesday, as we said, is the draft. So before we get stuck into who we could draft or who's out there, why don't we start with what are the needs? Where is the list at, and what are we actually needing to do here?
Yeah, look, I think it's more of a topping up, dare I say it, topping up the list. So we were flag contenders the year before. We made to a grand final. This year we should have made to a grand final, or maybe even gone further had we not have cut things short. So there is a very, very strong list, a very good depth of the playing list. We've got good backups in a lot of key positions as well as through the midfield. What we can say is, are there any holes? Well, maybe not holes, but let's look at the players we've had exit our list at the end of the year. First and foremost, we'll say Sarah Hosking, to my knowledge, hadn't missed a game at the club before she has now departed. So obviously that's a big loss.
Love Sarah Hosking.
Love Sarah Hosking. Fantastic player, fantastic person.
Yeah.
And she'll be really missed. Someone who puts her body on the line for the jumper, runs all day, is willing to put in the hard work for the team. If I was a coach, I'd always try and find a spot for her where possible. Jade Van Dyke is another one who's left, so she's gone to St Kilda for more opportunity probably. Jade started probably in our best 22 this year. She got injured, I think it was at the end of the first game, don't get me wrong, it was either the first or second game this year. Played majority of last season through the grand final, played in the grand final as well. This year played the first 1 or 2 games before getting hurt and hurt herself. And Jess Edwards stood into the side in her absence and just didn't look back, and just without a blink of an eye fit in the best 20, well, the best 22. I think that's the best 20 we have in the girls, or 21. And just didn't look back, and not only held down the spot, but by the end of the year probably took Jade's spot in the team. So as much as Jade, I consider a pretty darn good player. Cheersquad used to sponsor Jade while she was at Carlton. And she'll be a great asset to St Kilda, but at the same time, she possibly got kicked out of our best 22 by the time she left. From there, we lost Jo Doonan, who was our Irish recruit of the last off season, and again played the first couple of games. There was a bit of raw talent there. AFLW is new to Jade, to Jo, so you can forgive and understand if you being a bit green, excuse the pun, being Irish. You can understand things needing some teething processes, but there's a bit of talent there. So obviously with what's happened with Corona, she's gone back to Ireland and staying over there. That's not to put a knock on her and say that there's anything really went wrong. She lost a spot in the team. But if there was more opportunity for her to be staying over here long term, I reckon she'd have been someone we could have persisted with.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I follow her obviously on Instagram. So she's just started out her fitness company, her training company. So we'll give her a little plug there. She was a bagger for a short amount of time. And like you said, it's probably, it is. It's probably the pandemic has probably cut her experience short. I feel like she was a project player.
There was enough there to work with. I think we watched a couple of the practice games they had, and I remember one or two little things, and it's a lot. So many of the Irish players in the men's do the same. They just have a certain innate knack of the panache, the showy bits, and they'll have these little moments of skill that'll just leave you going, okay, what was that? Similar to a lot of the Indigenous talent we see in the men's, can do stuff that the rest of us can't do. Jade seems a super athlete as well. She's very good, strong build on her as well. I thought there was a real enough there to persist with. I don't know how old Jo is. I think only mid-20s or so though. So again, it's not like age is going to be a problem, but once the world, hopefully, fingers crossed, settles down again, hopefully it'll be something that they may be able to look back and say, well, if she does want to have another crack at it, it might be the door's still open there. Who else has left Carlton's list? Shani Whiting came from Williamstown forward. Didn't get a senior game with us. So, again, I saw her in the VFLW and didn't mind what I saw. But again, hasn't played a senior game at AFLW level, so is it a massive loss to our list? There's no major pressing need to replace it. Same with Katie Harrison, another one. Emerson Woods is one I want to talk about. VFLW over the past 2 years, I thought Emo showed quite a bit. Only young, very small frame on her, but really grew. It was like she was growing into her shoes, sort of thing. And probably because of her small stature, she kind of had to learn her ability and learn what her physical capabilities were. And you could just see confidence growing. Grew up a Carlton fan. I'll never forget being at the prelim final at Icon Park. We beat Freo 2018 to get into the grand final. And the last couple of minutes, once we knew we'd won it, it was party time for us and us fans and the cheer squad, everyone's going nuts. And a couple of the girls who were kind of the emergencies or weren't playing that day were standing on the boundary line. Well, the player race is right at Icon Park in the old Pratt stand where the cheer squad sit. And they kind of came at the end of the race and just stood on the boundary line and watched the last couple of minutes, basically standing in front of the cheer squad. And Emerson, growing up a Carlton fan, was standing there watching Carlton, her team, about to get into the grand final, with tears rolling down her face. And second I saw Emerson doing that, I started, and then everyone else, like, it was a really, really beautiful moment. So far, it may not have worked out for her at AFLW level, but she's someone who I really hope, makes it. If another team wants to take a punt on her, good luck to them and good luck to her. But I think that, again, a project player, she's only young. Like a lot of the AFLW lists, there's a lot of elite young talent coming through. We've seen the likes of Prasparkas and now the likes of Egan and Mcavoy coming into the comp. And this younger crop that have been playing Auskick since they were 8 or 9, you can tell the ones that have had a continued run through elite pathways. And it's kind of the strong crop coming through is kind of possibly going to starve a few others who are a year or two older of opportunity. But I really believe if they're good enough, they'll still make it. So Emerson's one I really hope, the best for. And then the last one I want to talk about is Chloe Dalton. One of the most incredible athletes you could ever hope to meet. An Olympic gold medalist, for goodness sake. And she's one who, during 2020, really hit her stride. There was one game at Princes Park. It might have been the Lions we played in the semi-final. And she ran just chased 100-metre chase down to tackle and getting a hold of the ball and was kicking goals. Run and carry was superb on a wing for us. Really, really important player, and added that outside run through the midfield, which was amazing. So that's probably the one that I look at and say, there's a gap on our list all of a sudden. Who's going to be the one to stand up and provide that run and carry that Chloe was giving? Now, Chloe is now sitting out this season because she's wanting to have a crack at the Olympics. Well, sadly, that's not necessarily the case now for this year. I don't know when. Do you know when the Olympics are being rescheduled to? Is it next year?
I have no idea, if I'm honest.
I've got a feeling this meant to be next year now, but touch wood, no one's got a clue what's going on, to be honest. But yeah, so she's trying to focus again and go back to the Olympics and focus on her rugby for now. So she's decided to sit out the 2021 season, is still contracted for Carlton for another season following. So just because she's sitting out this year doesn't necessarily mean she won't be back. And when she is back, God willing, everything goes right for her and she can bring home some more trophies to the Dalton cabinet, then she can come back and add another premiership with us, because she is quite a very, very good footballer. So, good luck to her in her rugby endeavours, but we can't wait to get her back at Carlton.
Right. So basically, that's what we've lost?
That's what we've lost, yep. So that's what we've lost. Who have we brought in? We've brought in a two-time All-Australian midfielder and former co-captain of Melbourne, Elise O'Day, who is an absolute bona fide gun.
Right.
Top 10 players in the competition. She's elite.
Right.
Like for Sarah Hosking, dare I say. So losing Sarah hurts on a personal level because I consider her a friend, but also one of my favourite players, gives a lot for the jumper. If you're going to have to lose her, it's made easier if you're replacing it with a two-time All-Australian who averages 18 disposals per game. It's more Sarah Hosking is a tackling machine. Elise averages more tackles, great clearance work, got a big body as well, strong frame, and kicks a couple of goals. She's been a former leader of Melbourne, a captain there. So, again, it's that extra bit of leadership and a wise head and a bit of resolve that might just be the last little step that gets us over the line to the premiership. I cannot sing her praises high enough. We were talking before how we didn't necessarily miss Bree Davey in 2020 like we thought we might. If there's any lagging effects of losing a player of that calibre, it's made up for by gaining a player of Elise O'Day's calibre.
Right, that's exciting.
Remarkably good. She's a gun. And I'm going to try and use every synonym for the word gun. Gun, elite, jet. She's a star. And Carlton fans will be very, very happy when they start watching her play.
Okay.
Some Carlton fans, if you're not watching a lot of the other AFLW clubs, I can totally understand, a lot of people might be focusing on just on our players and know our players.
Probably me. That's probably me. I think it's, I guess it's part of the transition into the league as a whole. Obviously Carlton, you've got that affinity and, that's definitely the case with me. Like I've heard a lot about O'Day and how she's, top 10 in the comp, but I just haven't really watched her play much. So I think that'll just come naturally.
And Melbourne's had a bit of an exodus this year. I don't attest to know what's gone on. There is rumours that certain people didn't like a coach and there was a bit of a player politics or whatever was going on. I don't know. I've only heard these rumours, but there has been a bit of an exodus. So they've had quite a really talented crop that have really underperformed the D's, probably since the competition started. They've had players like the Daisy Pearce and Karen Paxmans and these sort of players on their lists and just haven't been able to make it all click. So Melbourne losing a player of Elise's quality now, I think it's going to really hurt them. I can't try and emphasise enough to everybody. Not only will she walk into our best team, she'll walk into our best probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Absolute gun and just what we need for our list. We've also added from the D's Maddie Guerin.
Yes.
Small forward, probably a half forward, potentially still 1 or 2 games for the D's at Casey, which is a pretty long ground. Kind of using the open space for a bit of run and carry, not afraid to take the game on. Kind of not quite playing on a wing, but playing a high half forward role. Again, bit green, only young. She's only 20, but she's been on Melbourne's list for 3 years now. I think she played maybe 2 or 3 senior games each year. Probably just couldn't quite get it together yet. But again, she's 20 years old. She's got a long career ahead of her. And as a small forward, it's not an easy position to play in any competition, but in AFLW, you can't be expected to be getting 2 goals every game as a small forward. But she'll bring tackling pressure. She'll bring a willingness to take the game on and run and carry, hopefully. And in a similar vein for all the Carlton fans who do watch, our AFLW side, a Georgia G type player.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is she like Georgia G or is she like Darcy Vescia? I wasn't sure. That last kick inside 50, that when Georgia G's got the ball in her hands, you're confident it's going to hit someone on the ball on the chest. Hopefully Maddie can become that as well. Okay.
If she becomes as good as Georgia, then we're going to be laughing because I think Georgia G is an absolute star. Jeff Garlett, I look at her and I think, there's an old story of when Jeffy Garlett got drafted and someone said to Brett Ratton, well, what happens when someone tackles him? And they said, well, good luck catching him. And I think that of Georgia G. She's just, you look at her and you think, I think when she came to the club, and I don't want to embarrass Georgia, but when she came to the club, I think she has said she was 47 or 48 kilos when she first came to the club. And I'll put my hand up. I saw her at 1 or 2 training and I thought, oh, God, is this girl going to get hurt? Second, I saw the ball get in her hands and do a few drills. I realised, yeah, she's fine. She's a very good player and just hungry, like Marty Mouse, just fights above her weight class and plays like she's, plays like she's a Taylor Harris size. She's a gun. Got a lot of
I'm very impressed with her. Very impressed with what I saw from her.
And then the last player we brought in, Charlotte Hammonds from Gold Coast. So Charlotte's more of a medium-sized forward. Hasn't played a senior game, so she got drafted to Gold Coast. Part of they have like access to under-18 academy players and stuff like that. So
like the NGA?
Same sort of thing. Yep, same sort of thing. So they basically had a ability to select them pre-draft, and she was one of them. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out at Gold Coast in their first year in the comp, but she's come back to Melbourne now. Well, Carlton traded for her, so it's not like we had to, oh, yeah, she'll do. She's, on the scrap heap. We'll get her for free. We traded for her. So it must be something that I can't attest to seeing her play football because she hasn't played a senior game yet. But medium-sized forward. The write-up on a little bio on Gold Coast's AFLW page says good, strong hands and a knack for finding the goals. So hopefully we can find something to work with there. Adds more forward depth. You can never have too much of it. In AFLW, we're seeing on the weekend with the men's comp, accuracy matters. And all four teams, to my knowledge, or at least 3 of the 4 teams this past weekend, that lost had more scoring shots. And AFLW is just like that. You get chances, you've got to take them because it isn't exactly massively high scoring. So the difference between kicking 3 goals 7 and 7 goals 3 is a win and a loss.
Yeah.
And so if she can bring some extra depth and challenge for place in that forward line, more power us. So yeah, they're 3 players who brought in. Elise will walk into our best side. Maddie and Charlotte. They're going to have a fight on their hands for a spot in the 22, but
what you want.
It's exactly what you want. And if there's pressure going on the players who have been in the best 22, then great. Keeps them on their toes. Competition is the healthiest thing imaginable.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of a good side.
Yeah. Because, we seem like we're very well coached and just organised. So it's, like you said, apart from Elise, who is extremely talented, and not to say the others aren't, but,
sure.
Credit because she's been that good. And to be fair, we've got a team who some will say, including the 2 of us, would have been premiership players this year.
Totally. And look, and you're right. It's not to put the other 2 down. It's just that at least you don't make All Australian once. If you're not good, you don't make it twice unless you're really good. The competition's only been going 4 years, and one of them was cut short. But she's about as elite as you could hope to get at your club.
Okay.
Look, there's still development from within our list. Where can we improve? There's a handful of players on our list who kind of didn't necessarily get their crack because it's a hard team to crack into in 2020. But a handful of recruits from last year who are still on our list, who I've seen enough that I think might be able to add something.
Well, I want to ask you, what's happening with my girl, Brooke Vernon? Because we had a good chat last year. Where is Brooke at? Brooke
was probably the first name on my list. So,
right.
So Brooke, I think...
Great minds.
No, so Brooke played 1 game last year. She played in the Pride game. I think it was against Footscray, the Pride game. She got to go. Did nothing wrong. But I'm trying to think who it was that was out. Someone had a suspension or someone was out that week. As a defender, might have been Karen. It wasn't Harrington, but one of the defenders might have been Moore or some of them. No, Charlotte Wilson missed 1 game.
Another
bit of a knock. Came out, and Charlotte had a breakout year, and I don't think she made All Australian, but she damn well should have.
Yeah.
And couldn't find her spot. Brooke did nothing wrong to get dropped again, but it was just again strong competition for places that kind of kept her out of the side. But now we've lost Jade from the list. It opens up Jade Van Dyke. Sorry, we've lost her from the list. It opens up an opportunity for someone like Brooke as a key position defender to kind of find her role. The only thing that she's going to probably struggle with is that our back 6 is very, very good at Carlton.
Yeah.
You got the likes of Harrington, Pound, Laloifi, Wilson is a Jess Hosking running through there as a smaller defender. They're pretty set, and they all set up our play from the half-back line. We're a real team to set up really well behind the ball and have that sort of frontal pressure, trying to lock the ball in our front half. And when the ball does get intercepted, a lot of intercept marks and stuff from all of those players we just listed. Then the switch happens and they set up play and bang. Once someone gets that switch kick, the spread goes and like a slingshot from half back straight into the forward line. If I was someone like Taylor Harris, I'd just be licking my lips with the sort of service that started coming a lot of the time last year. So it's going to be hard to crack into that back six. But again, I've seen enough from Brooke and from all reports, I haven't seen a heck of a lot of her training and stuff, but is a pretty darn good athlete too. So yeah, Brooke's one who I'll be looking at possibly to step up this year and fill a mount a challenge for the best 22.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Who else have we got? Courtney Jones is another one. Now I don't know whether you've seen the footage, but it was either her Instagram or Carlton AFLW might have then reshared it of her doing the Eddie Betts goals from about 9 rows back. I think she was just at a local park, standing about 7 to 10 metres out of bounds, doing the bananas, and it was like clockwork, just taking the P15S, kicking these goals from nowhere. Again, if you can get a player like that to find yourself into again, it's not exactly a very easy forward line to crack into. You've got the likes of Vecchio, Harris, Mcavoy, Egan at times was playing forward. It's a real hard team to crack into. So we've got some elite talent sitting on the sidelines right now. That's how good Carlton's list is. That's the good shape we're in. Abby Mckay, Carlton's favourite father-daughter. Father-daughter. 2018, played a handful of games and showed a lot. There was one game down at Geelong where she kind of came on, and in the second half, Carlton mounted a bit of a comeback. I think we were 3 goals down in the last quarter and lost it by a point or something. But Abby was a real driving force in that last quarter to get Carlton back. And for those of us who go and watch the VFLW, she's in amongst the best handful every single week at the VFL level. So, yeah, again, she's only 19, 20 years old and has such an upside. So Abby's probably one I'd be looking at as possibly to find a few midfield minutes this year. Not afraid of a contest either. So she might find herself potentially finding a role up forward as well.
Yep.
If you're not afraid of the contest, lock the ball in. Once the ball is in that 50, let's lock it in. Let's get repeated efforts and see if we can, repeat stoppages and see if we can't lock the ball in and get some scores. Abby Mckay, I mean, with a surname like that, you're Carlton royalty.
Absolutely. If she's anything like the old man, I think we're going to be in good hands.
Thankfully for her, she's got a bit more hair.
Yeah.
But the talent is undeniable though. Carlton gave up our second pick last year the previous year when we had to nominate her for father-daughter. And you don't give away draft picks. Sentimentality isn't necessarily a thing in a professional sport business. And yeah, Abby's got a massive upside still. So she's another one I'll be looking at. Serena Gibbs hasn't played a senior game for Carlton yet. But again, key position, ruck. She's one who, again, during training and stuff, a bit green. It was a bit of a learning curve for her early on, but I saw her kind of hitting a stride at a handful of training sessions during last year and showed it quite a bit. Really good size. So again, she's her only issue to get a game at the moment is we've got 2 of the best ruckmen in the competition. Ruck women, what do we call them? Rucks in the in the competition in Al Downey and Bree Moody, who are just both insanely good. And that's probably the only thing keeping Serena out. Can play key position at both ends.
Yep.
As a junior, played quite a bit up forward apparently, or during the lead up to AFLW level. So I feel that she'd probably be relieving forward rather than key position defender if she was to come in. But also tall enough and athletic enough to play in the ruck. So there's more depth. We've just highlighted depth in the midfield, highlighted depth down back, up forward, and in the ruck. So these are players who really didn't necessarily get their go last year. Or of those 4 we mentioned, 1 game between the 4 of them last year. But I think all 4 have quite a lot to offer our list into this year. And then there's one more. Not that she didn't necessarily offer a heck of a lot in 2020, But Lucy Mcavoy, she was top 3 in the draft. And if it weren't for, a young lady named Madison Prasparkas who came the year before her and who not only set the world alight last year, but this year got the league MVP. And
whole new level. There's
now pure, transparency here. I'll talk about my father is someone who is probably taken a bit longer than a lot of others to get used to AFLW. He comes from a generation of guys that, that's not footy, it's low score, all that sort of stuff. We've all heard it all. Turns on the TV once or twice and sees Maddie Prasparkas playing and goes, okay, who is that? It just captures your attention and you can't help it.
100%. It's so true.
So good. The jokes come and they're all in good humour, but, all the jokes come saying, well, can we get her to play for the guys' team because she could show a few things. She's amazing talent. So if it weren't for players like Maddie taking so much attention, I think in her first year, Lucy Mcavoy, she played every single game and just flew right on the radar, doing her job every week.
Yeah.
She might now. She's had her taste at that level. I wouldn't be surprised if they just unleash her. She played quite a bit forward, kind of that, again, similar to Georgia G, that last kick inside 50. But she's got good hands above her head, really, really clean with the footy and a ripper kick. So she kind of played half forward / midfield. She kind of tasted both sort of worlds during the past season. But I just wouldn't be surprised if she sees a lot more time in the midfield this year. Now she's got a taste of it. And if you just throw a pick 3, I think she ended up being Patrikios was number 2. Who was the other top pick? Huntington, I think it was the other one, played for Footscray. So if you're getting an elite player who was the top 3 in the draft to fly under the radar, it shows just how good your list is.
Yeah.
She's doing everything right so far. So I think that she's another one who we can just ask to take that next step, and this year will really add a heck of a lot to our list. Yeah.